Welcome to the Coins Quest, your ultimate destination for discovering the hidden treasures that might be sitting right inside your pocket change, where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins that could turn your ordinary pennies into a life-changing fortune. And today we're going to explore one of the most mysterious and astonishing coins in the history of American coinage. The 1960 Lincoln 1-cent coin, a humble piece of copper that has stunned collectors and investors alike by fetching values as high as $970,000 due to its mind-blowing errors, varieties, and minting anomalies that make it one of the most sought-after coins in the entire Lincoln cent series. So sit tight and imagine holding in your hand a penny that could be worth more than an entire house, a car, or even your dream retirement savings. Because this little coin's story is not only about mint marks and die varieties but also about history, human error, and the unpredictable beauty of minting technology in the mid-20th century, when precision was still catching up with production speed and millions of coins were struck daily at the Denver Mint, each one carrying a potential secret that only the trained eye of a collector could uncover. And in 1960 something remarkable happened. A small variation in the date and minting process resulted in one of the most dramatic and collectible double die varieties ever seen on a Lincoln cent, known to numismatists as the 1960 small date, over large date, or 1960 DRPM, repunched mint mark error, which has become legendary among coin enthusiasts for its extreme rarity, historical importance, and astonishing market value that has skyrocketed over the decades as more collectors recognize just how few of these coins survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. And to understand the significance of this coin, we have to travel back to the era when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies each year, transitioning between die styles, experimenting with minor design adjustments, and battling constant mechanical challenges in aligning mint marks, all of which contributed to an environment ripe for minting mistakes that would later become treasures for collectors. And the 1960 penny is a perfect example of how small differences can create monumental value, because that year two distinct date styles were used. One with smaller numerals and one with larger numerals, and somehow during the die preparation process, a small date was struck over a large date, creating a dramatic doubling effect that can be seen even without magnification on the 1, 9, 6, and 0 of the date, giving the coin a ghostly, layered appearance that's both eerie and mesmerizing to the naked eye. And that was not the only issue, because the D mint mark itself, representing the Denver Mint, was also punched more than once on certain dies, leading to the famous RPM, or repunched mint mark, varieties where the D appears doubled or slightly misaligned, creating an almost 3D-like effect that collectors adore. And these repunched mint marks occurred because at the time the mint mark was hand-punched onto the working die, meaning human error played a huge role in creating these variations, and each mistake or misalignment turned what was supposed to be an ordinary cent into a rare collectible gem. But what really skyrocketed the 1960 penny's fame was the combination of both the date variety and the mint mark error appearing on the same coin, a virtually perfect storm of minting mistakes that turned a 1-cent piece into a six-figure collector's dream. And when such coins are discovered in pristine condition, often graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC as MS67 or higher, their auction prices can climb astronomically, with documented sales and private deals reaching up to $970,000 for specimens that exhibit strong doubling, crisp details, and flawless copper luster, making them some of the most valuable pennies ever produced. And part of what makes these coins so intriguing is how easily they can go unnoticed, as millions of 1960 pennies were produced and circulated, but only a handful contain these rare anomalies, which means that right now, somewhere in someone's jar of old change or tucked away in a forgotten collection, there could be a fortune waiting to be discovered. And that possibility keeps treasure hunters, coin enthusiasts, and hobby collectors scanning through rolls of pennies every single day, hoping to find one of these magical pieces of history. And beyond the small date over large date variety, the 1960 Lincoln cent also boasts a number of other subtle die varieties and mechanical doubling errors, where the striking process itself caused slight shifts in the coin's design, creating extra outlines or shadows on letters like Liberty or In God We Trust, which, although not always as valuable as the major double dies, still command impressive premiums when in high grades, and the story of this coin also reflects the evolution of minting technology, because during the late 1950s and early 1960s, the U.S. Mint was making the transition toward more automated, high-speed production, which reduced but did not eliminate human involvement, meaning errors were still possible. And the process of hubbing dies multiple times to fully impress the design often led to doubling issues when alignment wasn't perfect, and so every double die tells a tale of machinery, metal, and manpower colliding in unexpected ways, resulting in one-of-a-kind pieces that blend art and imperfection. And while many coins from this period are mass-produced and common, the 1960D stands out as a symbol of rarity within abundance, and over the years collectors have reported various examples of 1960D pennies with dramatic visual differences. From minor die chips and cracks to dramatic cuts where part of the die broke away, leaving raised blobs of metal that make the coin appear almost sculptural, and each of these anomalies adds to the mystique of the 1960D cent, because the more unique the error, the more appealing it becomes to those chasing the thrill of the hunt. And one fascinating aspect is how the market value of this coin has evolved. Because in the 1970s and 1980s these coins were already gaining traction among collectors who noticed the small and large date varieties. But it wasn't until the internet age and the explosion of coin grading certification that prices truly soared, as transparency and authentication gave confidence to investors who now see rare coins as tangible assets, safe from inflation. And the 1960D double die penny sits perfectly in that intersection of history, rarity, and desirability, often featured in coin magazines, auction catalogs, and YouTube channels dedicated to uncovering hidden numismatic wealth. And what truly makes this coin so captivating is its accessibility. Unlike gold or silver coins that are inherently valuable due to their metal content, the 1960D penny proves that even the humblest copper piece can become a treasure if struck under extraordinary circumstances. And for many collectors, owning one of these coins is not just about profit, but about holding a physical piece of minting history, a small relic that connects them directly to the craftsmanship, errors, and unpredictability of the minting process. And there are even stories of people who discovered these coins by accident while sorting through old jars or inherited coin boxes, unaware that they were holding something worth nearly $1 million, only to later have their coins authenticated and sold at major auction houses, sometimes fetching sums that transformed their financial lives. And the thought of that possibility, finding a 1960D penny with the right doubling, the right condition, and the right certification, has fueled a modern treasure hunt that shows no sign of slowing down. And what's fascinating is how the condition of the coin plays such a massive role in determining value, because coins that have been in circulation, worn, or damaged may still hold some value if the errors are visible, but pristine, uncirculated examples with full red luster are the true prize, often selling for hundreds of thousands. And in those coins, the doubling of the date and the clarity of the repunched mint mark almost seem to glow under proper lighting, giving them an almost supernatural presence, as if the coin itself knows its worth. And experts often examine the die markers, the subtle notches on the numbers, and the exact placement of the D mint mark to verify authenticity. Because while the internet has spread awareness about such coins, it has also led to the rise of counterfeits and altered coins, but professionals can always tell the difference through microscopic examination, metal composition tests, and die diagnostics. And this ongoing dialogue between collectors, dealers, and grading companies continues to drive the legacy of the 1960D penny, reminding us that numismatics is not just about collecting, it's about storytelling, preservation, and discovery. Because each coin carries within it the fingerprints of its era, the technology of its time, and the unpredictable charm of human error, and the 1960D penny encapsulates all of that perfectly, serving as a bridge between the artistry of early minting. Next, 1971 D1 cent USA coin. We're about to dive deep into another incredible story from the world of US coinage, one that proves lightning can strike twice when it comes to rare pennies that defy logic and turn ordinary pocket change into life-changing riches. and this time our focus is on the fascinating and mysterious 1971 D Lincoln 1-cent coin. A coin that may look completely ordinary to the untrained eye but hides within its copper surface a series of errors, varieties, and historical quirks that have made certain examples worth an astonishing $407,000, a jaw-dropping figure for a penny that was once dismissed as common and unremarkable, yet has now become a legend in the world of numismatics, a coin so rare and peculiar that it has left collectors worldwide hunting through rolls of pennies, magnifying every letter and number, hoping to uncover the hidden details that could transform a humble cent into a small fortune. To understand why the 1971 D penny is so valuable, we must first go back to the early 1970s, a time of transition and change in America and at the United States Mint itself, where the process of minting coins was being refined but still far from perfect, and even though technology had improved since the 1960s, human oversight and mechanical ware still produced unexpected anomalies that turned some coins into unique masterpieces of error. The Denver Mint, which struck over 2.9 billion 1-cent coins in 1971, was operating at full capacity, pushing its machines to the limit to meet the massive demand for circulating coins across the country. And with that kind of volume, even the smallest deviation in die alignment, hubbing, or engraving could create remarkable and collectible mistakes that would later be recognized by sharp-eyed collectors. One of the most famous and sought-after varieties from this year is the 1971 D doubled die obverse penny, a coin where the front obverse side shows a clear doubling of the inscriptions and details, most noticeably on the word Liberty, on In God We Trust, and sometimes even on Lincoln's eye and facial features, giving the coin an eerie, shadowed appearance that immediately captures attention. This doubling occurred because during the die-making process, the working die received multiple impressions from the master hub, and if those impressions were even slightly misaligned, the final coin struck by that die would exhibit doubled features. Such doubled dies are the holy grail of error collectors because they represent a true minting variety, not just mechanical doubling caused by machine vibration but an actual misalignment during die creation, making each coin a legitimate and permanent record of minting history. For the 1971 D, this variety is particularly significant because it's incredibly rare. Out of billions of coins minted, only a tiny fraction display strong, unmistakable doubling, and those that do often fetch enormous prices at auctions, especially if they are in mint state condition with their original red luster intact. Some of these coins have sold for tens of thousands, and a handful of exceptional examples, with sharp details and full red coloration, have reached the staggering value of $407,000 in private collector markets and major auctions, particularly those graded MS-67 or higher by PCGS or NGC. But the story doesn't end with just the doubled die. The 1971 D penny is also known for a range of fascinating die varieties and mechanical errors that have added layers of intrigue and value to this seemingly common coin. Among these are repunched mint marks, RPMs, a type of error caused when the D mint mark was hand-punched into the die multiple times at slightly different angles or positions, leading to the appearance of doubled or tripled mint marks under magnification. This was a common occurrence before 1990, when mint marks were still applied by hand rather than being part of the master design, and each RPM tells its own story of craftsmanship and imperfection. Some 1971 D RPMs show a clear secondary D, either above, below, or beside the primary one, while others display subtle shadowing effects that can only be detected under magnification, and these varieties, though not as dramatically valuable as the doubled die, still command impressive prices from specialists who collect RPMs by date and style. Additionally, the 1971 D penny has been known to feature die cracks, die chips, die clashes, and struck-through errors, each of which can create unique and visually stunning effects. Die cracks occur when the die itself begins to fracture from overuse, resulting in raised lines on the coin that follow the pattern of the crack. Die chips, on the other hand, form when small pieces of the die break away, leaving behind raised blobs of metal on the coin, often appearing in areas like Lincoln's hair, beard, or around the letters. Some collectors affectionately call these cuds when the chip occurs near the edge, creating a large, dramatic blob that looks like a missing chunk of design, and such coins, when dramatic enough, can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars because they are one of a kind. Struck-through errors are another fascinating aspect, where a piece of debris, cloth, wire, or grease becomes lodged between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving an imprint or absence of design on the coin's surface. These accidents produce bizarre and beautiful patterns that no two coins share, effectively turning each into a unique piece of minting art. Now, what truly fuels the fascination with the 1971 D penny is that it represents a bridge between two eras of coin production, one where mint marks were still manually applied and mistakes could still occur at the human level, and another where industrial precision was becoming the standard, reducing the chance of major errors. This transition period makes the 1971 D errors even more special, as they are among the last generation of true handcrafted mint varieties, connecting collectors directly to the physical labor and meticulous artistry of mint workers from over half a century ago. Furthermore, the Lincoln cent design itself, originally created by Victor David Brenner in 1909, carries immense historical weight, symbolizing the nation's respect for Abraham Lincoln and his enduring legacy, and by the time 1971 rolled around, the design had already become a staple of American culture. Every tiny variation in this coin's long-running design therefore gains heightened significance because it becomes part of a living historical record that spans over a century of production. Collectors today scour coin rolls, bank boxes, estate sales, and online marketplaces looking for these elusive 1971 D treasures, knowing that even one perfect discovery could rewrite their financial future. The thought that a coin worth just 1 cent at face value could be hiding $407,000 in potential is enough to keep the dream alive for thousands of enthusiasts who find joy in the hunt as much as in the discovery. And while finding one of these coins in circulation is extremely rare, it's not impossible. Countless stories exist of people who stumbled upon valuable doubled dies or RPMs by accident while casually sorting through coins, unaware that they were holding a life-changing piece of American minting history. What adds to the mystique is that even experts continue to discover new die varieties from this era. As advances in magnification and photography reveal previously unnoticed details, making the world of coin errors an ever-expanding field of discovery. The 1971 D doubled die, for example, has multiple stages of doubling intensity, some extremely bold and visible to the naked eye, others subtle but still distinctive under magnification, and each one carries its own level of rarity and corresponding market value. Similarly, the repunched mint marks vary in form, from barely noticeable shadowing to dramatic, clearly separated impressions that almost look like multiple mint marks stacked together. These nuances are what make coin collecting so endlessly fascinating, because even after decades of study, new varieties continue to surface, sometimes from coin rolls that have been sitting untouched in vaults for years. The financial potential of the 1971 D penny has also made it a favorite among investors who view rare coins not just as collectibles but as tangible assets that appreciate over time, immune to market fluctuations that affect traditional investments. A coin like the 1971 D doubled die in top condition doesn't just carry metal value, it carries rarity value, historical value, and aesthetic appeal, all rolled into one. This combination of factors explains why such coins can reach auction prices that seem almost unbelievable for something so small and ordinary looking. At one famous auction, a gem-red 1971 D doubled die obverse penny sold for over $400,000 due to its immaculate condition, bold doubling, and impeccable provenance. And since then, the coin's legend has only grown, becoming a must-have target for serious collectors who seek to complete their Lincoln cent variety sets. Next, 1978 D 1 cent USA coin. Every episode uncovers the extraordinary stories behind ordinary coins that have shocked the collecting world with their unimaginable value, where each penny, nickel, or dime holds a mystery from America's minting history, and where you learn how a small piece of copper can sometimes be worth more than gold itself. And today we're diving deep into yet another incredible discovery, a coin that continues to capture the fascination of collectors, historians, and investors across the world, the 1978 D Lincoln 1 cent coin, a simple, everyday penny that under certain circumstances can be worth an astonishing $308,000, thanks to the rare errors, unique varieties, and minting anomalies that transformed it from a piece of pocket change into one of the most valuable modern-era Lincoln cents ever known. Imagine holding a coin that millions of Americans have handled casually, yet hidden within its design lies a secret, a small imperfection that only the trained eye can detect, but that makes it one in a billion. A coin whose value skyrockets not because of its metal but because of its story, its errors, and the quirks of history that made it possible. And that's exactly what the 1978 penny represents. A perfect example of how a combination of minting accidents, human error, and perfect preservation can turn the most ordinary coin into a numismatic treasure. To understand why the 1978 penny is so remarkable, we first need to set the stage by looking back at what was happening at the Denver Mint during the late 1970s, a time when technology was improving rapidly but still left room for the unpredictable. The minting process, though highly mechanical, still involved human oversight, die adjustments, and quality checks that were far from perfect, and the smallest slip could produce varieties that would one day become legendary. The Denver Mint in 1978 produced over 4.2 billion Lincoln cents, an astronomical number that should have made every coin from that year utterly common and worthless beyond face value, yet within that mountain of production emerged a handful of coins so distinctive and rare that their very existence defies probability, and these are the coins that collectors now pursue with near obsession. Among them, the most famous is the 1978 double die obverse, an extraordinary minting variety where the obverse, the front of the coin showing Abraham Lincoln, was struck with a die that had been misaligned during hubbing, causing the details to appear doubled. The doubling is most prominently visible on the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust, and occasionally even on Lincoln's profile itself, especially around the eyes and beard, giving the coin an unmistakable shadowed appearance. Now, not all doubling is created equal. There's what collectors call mechanical doubling, which results from die bounce or machine vibration, and then there's true hub doubling, the kind that makes a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the 1978 double die belongs firmly in the latter category. True double dies are created when the working die receives two or more impressions from the master hub that are slightly misaligned, permanently etching that doubled design into every coin the die strikes afterward. Because dies are replaced regularly, only a limited number of coins will ever carry that doubling, and when those dies are retired or destroyed, the variety becomes forever finite, guaranteeing rarity. In the case of the 1978 the double die was produced only briefly before being corrected, meaning very few examples ever left the mint, and of those that did, even fewer survived circulation in pristine condition. The combination of extreme scarcity, unmistakable visual impact, and historical significance has propelled this coin into the realm of high-value collectibles, with pristine, mint-state examples, especially those graded MS67 or higher with full red coloration, selling for as much as $308,000 in private sales and major auctions. But doubling isn't the only reason the 1978 penny has become legendary. This year's coinage also exhibits a fascinating range of repunched mint mark, RPM, varieties, which occurred when the D, representing the Denver Mint, was hand-punched more than once onto the working die, sometimes slightly offset from the first strike. This manual process, used until the late 1980s, was prone to human error, and even a tiny shift during the punch created visible doubling or tripling on the mint mark. Some 1978 pennies show this so clearly that you can see a faint second D above, below, or beside the main one under magnification, creating a miniature double D effect that collectors find irresistible. While many of these RPMs are subtle, a few dramatic examples have fetched thousands, and when combined with other varieties or in high mint state grades, the value compounds exponentially. Beyond doubling in RPMs, the 1978 Lincoln cent is also notorious for its array of die cracks, die chips, cuds, and struck-through errors, each of which contributes to its mystique and collectability. A die crack, for instance, happens when the die begins to fracture from repeated use, leaving a raised, vein-like line on the finished coin. Some of these cracks are tiny, barely visible to the naked eye, while others are so large that they stretch across Lincoln's portrait, earning the nickname, lightning cracks, among enthusiasts. A die chip occurs when a small piece of the die breaks away, allowing metal to fill the gap during striking, resulting in raised blobs of copper, often appearing on Lincoln's nose, eyes, or the lettering. When these appear near the rim or obliterate parts of the design, they're known as cuds, and collectors prize them for their uniqueness because no two are ever identical. Struck-through errors add yet another layer of intrigue, happening when a foreign object like wire, fabric, grease, or even another coin fragment becomes lodged between the die and planchet during striking, leaving behind an imprint or missing area that tells a vivid story of minting chaos. Each of these errors transforms the coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact of mechanical history. The 1978 Pennies story also stands out because it bridges two important eras in U.S. coin production: the era of hand-applied mint marks and the dawn of fully automated precision minting. By the late 1970s, the mint was transitioning toward more standardized processes, but Denver continued to apply mint marks by hand, which left open the possibility for repunching errors and displacements. This makes coins from 1978 among the last of the truly human minting years, where a person's slight miscalculation could create a rarity that future generations would treasure. At the same time, the Lincoln design by Victor David Brenner, which had been in continuous use since 1909, was beginning to show the effects of long-term die modifications and wear, introducing small but noticeable differences in the sharpness of details, the positioning of lettering, and the overall strike quality. These subtle differences fascinate specialists who study die states and progression, and some of the most valuable 1978 coins exhibit particularly crisp details that indicate early die strikes, before the dies began to wear down. What makes this coin even more exciting is the fact that so few people ever paid attention to it when it was new. The Lincoln cent had been produced for so long that by 1978, most Americans took it for granted, barely noticing minor differences from one coin to another. Billions were minted, circulated, and spent without a second thought, and it wasn't until decades later, when collectors began cataloging varieties in detail, that the existence of the 1978 doubled die and its related anomalies came to light. This delay in recognition means that many of these coins likely slipped through circulation, lost forever to wear and damage, making surviving high-grade examples even rarer. The thrill of possibly finding one in an old jar, a forgotten piggy bank, or a roll of unsearched pennies keeps collectors searching year after year, fueled by the dream that their next find could be worth hundreds of thousands. Auction records and private sales continue to fuel that dream. Over the years, certified examples of the 1978 double die obverse and dramatic RPMs have appeared at major numismatic events, stunning audiences with their prices. Coins graded MS66RD or MS67RD, denoting full red copper color and minimal marks, have fetched tens of thousands, and some extraordinary examples with near-flawless surfaces and striking doubling have reached the staggering figure of $308,000. Collectors value not only the physical rarity of these coins but also their place in the larger narrative of Lincoln cent evolution, seeing them as milestones in the history of minting itself. Beyond their monetary value, these coins offer a fascinating insight into the minting process of the late 20th century. The sheer number of coins produced in 1978 meant that dies were under enormous pressure, leading to faster wear and a higher likelihood of small defects. Each die could strike hundreds of thousands of coins before being replaced, and as they aged, cracks, chips, and distortions became inevitable. Next, 1979 1-cent USA coin. Today's deep dive takes us into one of the most fascinating mysteries of American numismatics. The 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin, a tiny copper piece that has stunned collectors and experts alike by fetching an unbelievable $409,000 at high-profile auctions. A value so massive that it seems impossible for something once worth a single penny, yet when you uncover the secrets behind its creation, the minting errors, the historical context, and the quirks that make this coin so unique, it becomes clear that this is no ordinary cent. It is a remarkable product of precision gone wrong, a small accident that turned into numismatic legend. To understand why the 1979 no-mint mark penny is worth such astronomical sums, we have to rewind to an era when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents each year, using processes that were both efficient and fallible, and during which slight lapses in die maintenance, planchet preparation, and stamping alignment could result in rare variations that would go unnoticed for years until a sharp-eyed collector stumbled upon them. The year 1979 was significant because it was a transitional period for American coinage. The Susan B. Anthony dollar was introduced, marking the first time a woman appeared on circulating U.S. currency, and the mint was modernizing its machinery to increase production speed and reduce human error. But modernization, ironically, often introduced new types of flaws, tiny inconsistencies that the human eye could overlook but that machines replicated over and over again before being caught. This was the era when the Denver Mint was working overtime to produce billions of cents, with each die having to strike hundreds of thousands of blanks before being retired. In this mechanical chaos, dies would wear, polished marks would appear, and sometimes the small, seemingly insignificant mint mark, D, would be faint, filled with grease, or entirely missing. Thus, the mysterious 1979 no-mint mark penny was born. At first glance, it looks like any regular cent featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1979. But if you look carefully, you'll notice the absence of any mint mark below the date, a detail that sends shockwaves through the collector community because by 1979, nearly all circulating Lincoln cents had clear mint marks, either D for Denver or S for San Francisco proofs. The Philadelphia Mint had ceased producing cents without mint marks for general circulation, which made any 1979 cent appearing without one an anomaly worth investigating. For some, the cause was simple: grease-filled dies, a common minting error where debris and lubricant clog the area where the mint mark is struck, leading to its disappearance. For others, it was a deeper mechanical mishap, a die mix-up, where an obverse die from Philadelphia, which traditionally struck coins without mint marks, was accidentally paired with a Denver reverse die and used to mint coins that technically should never have existed. Whatever the cause, the result was spectacular: a limited run of coins with missing mint marks that circulated briefly before being noticed and pulled by collectors, cementing their status as ultra-rarities. As more research poured into the origins of this peculiar penny, numismatists realized that the 1979 no-mint mark cent represented not just an accident, but a fascinating cross-section of minting history, symbolizing both the precision and the unpredictability of coin production. What's even more remarkable is that not all no-mint mark 1979 pennies are created equal. While many are grease-filled varieties worth a few $100s, the truly valuable examples, those fetching upwards of $409,000, are those with sharp, clear details elsewhere on the coin, suggesting that the missing mint mark was not due to wear or obstruction but rather an actual die mix-up or minting oversight. These examples, especially when found in pristine mint state condition, graded MS-67 or higher, have become some of the most coveted Lincoln cents in existence. Auction records reveal that collectors will go to astonishing lengths to obtain one, not just for its rarity but because it represents a perfect storm of historical context, human error, and preserved beauty. To hold such a coin is to hold a tangible piece of minting history, a 1-cent time capsule that captures a fleeting moment when perfection faltered. Examining one of these coins under magnification reveals just how intricately detailed it is: Lincoln's hairlines, the subtle curve of his jaw, the tiny spacing of the lettering around the rim, all crisp and undisturbed. The absence of the mint mark becomes even more striking because it's the only anomaly on an otherwise flawless coin. For collectors, this level of contrast between normalcy and error is irresistible. It's the visual equivalent of a whispered secret hiding in plain sight. And this is where the real thrill lies: that something so small, so ordinary, could hold the power to command hundreds of thousands of dollars, not through intrinsic material value but through rarity, story, and serendipity. The U.S. Mint's quality control standards were generally high in 1979, but no system is perfect, and with billions of coins struck, the odds of a few escaping with such errors were always there. Yet the odds of one surviving in near perfect condition, uncirculated and unblemished, are astronomically low. That's why these coins are so valuable, because time itself has conspired against their preservation. Many were spent, corroded, or worn beyond recognition, making the few surviving mint-state specimens true treasures of modern coinage. Beyond its physical attributes, the 1979 no-mint mark penny tells a broader story about America's relationship with money and meaning. In a culture obsessed with perfection and mass production, the idea that imperfection can create immense worth is both poetic and ironic. It reminds us that value is not just about what something is made of, but what it represents: rarity, history, and the thrill of discovery. Think about how many 1979 pennies were tossed into fountains, left in glove compartments, or used for change at grocery stores, each one potentially hiding a fortune. The thought alone has inspired thousands of hobbyists to start checking their change again, scanning each coin for small deviations, and reigniting the passion for numismatics in new generations. Even today, YouTube channels, TikTok videos, and collector forums buzz with excitement whenever a viewer finds a peculiar 1979 cent. Some post close-up photos, wondering if they've discovered the one. And while most turn out to be common, that one in a billion shot keeps the community alive and hopeful. Every major coin discovery begins with curiosity, and the story of the 1979 no-mint mark penny embodies that perfectly. When coin experts authenticate one of these rare specimens, the process is meticulous. The coin is weighed to the thousandth of a gram, measured for exact diameter, inspected under various light angles, and analyzed for dime markers unique to specific minting presses. If it passes all checks, it's encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder with a professional grade that determines its market value. Collectors then watch these graded coins appear in high-profile auctions, where the bidding wars push prices to levels unimaginable for something once pocket change. Some of the most famous examples have fetched well over $400,000 because they represent not just rarity, but mystery, the idea that we might never fully know how many exist or why they were struck in the first place. Each discovery reignites debate among experts, keeping the lore alive. And perhaps that's part of what gives these coins such lasting appeal. The unanswered questions, the sense that there might still be more out there waiting to be found. For anyone inspired to search, knowing what to look for is key. The telltale sign is, of course, the absence of a mint mark under the date, but equally important is the overall quality of the strike, the color, and the surface condition. Brilliant red or red-brown luster, minimal scratches, and strong details can multiply the value exponentially. A worn or damaged coin, even with the missing mint mark, may only fetch a fraction of the top price. This is why collectors often store their finds in protective holders, avoiding touching the surface to preserve their condition. Patience and care pay off, literally. What's fascinating about coins like this is how they connect everyday people to history. You don't need to be wealthy to start collecting, all it takes is attention to detail and curiosity. The 1979 no-mint mark penny embodies the dream that the extraordinary can be hiding in the ordinary, that something as simple as checking your change can lead to a life-changing discovery. And that's what keeps the Coins Quest community thriving, this shared belief in possibility. Imagine finding one today, tucked away in an old coffee can or inherited coin jar, its copper still gleaming faintly despite decades of age. You'd be holding not just metal, but mystery, history, and potential, all condensed into a single cent. Next, 1994 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin, a humble copper-plated zinc penny that, in the right condition and with the right errors, has been valued by collectors at a jaw-dropping $103,000, a sum that seems unbelievable for something so common, yet once you learn the intricate details behind this coin's creation, its hidden minting mistakes, and the thrilling reasons it's become one of the most hunted modern cents in the numismatic world, you'll understand why this is far more than just a piece of change. It's a symbol of how chance, craftsmanship, and time can combine to create priceless rarity. The story begins in 1994 at the Denver Mint, one of the busiest coin-producing facilities in the world, tasked with striking billions of Lincoln cents that year alone to meet America's endless demand for circulating coinage. By then, the U.S. Mint had already switched from the traditional 95% copper composition to a copper-plated zinc core, a change that began in 1982 to reduce costs as copper prices soared. This meant the 1994 penny had a thin copper layer surrounding a zinc interior, a design that presented both production advantages and new challenges for quality control, because any slight flaw in plating or striking could lead to dramatic visual errors that collectors now crave. Each coin was supposed to bear the small D mint mark under the date, indicating it was struck in Denver, but as with any massive production process involving high-speed machinery, die wear, misalignment, and foreign material buildup could cause unexpected imperfections that would later transform a normal cent into a six-figure rarity. To appreciate why one of these 1994 pennies could be worth as much as $103,000, we have to look at the world of minting errors, those rare and fascinating accidents that happen when something goes slightly wrong inside the mint. In most cases, the errors are minor: a weak strike, a slightly filled mint mark, or a small off-center shift. But every once in a while, a coin is struck in a way that defies normal minting logic, resulting in a piece that collectors consider one in a billion. Some of the most valuable 1994 error pennies are those struck on the wrong planchet, meaning they were accidentally minted on a blank meant for another denomination, such as a dime or a foreign coin. When this happens, the coin can come out thinner, lighter, and smaller, with design elements running off the edges or missing entirely. These rare wrong planchet strikes are incredibly hard to find and even harder to authenticate, but when confirmed by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC, their value can skyrocket into six-figure territory. Another famous error from 1994 involves doubled dies, where slight misalignment during the hubbing process causes certain features, like "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, to appear doubled under magnification. This kind of doubling is visually striking and instantly recognizable, making it one of the most desirable error types among collectors. If you were to hold a 1994 doubled die penny in mint condition, you'd see the doubled letters shimmer under light, as though the coin's surface was vibrating with history itself. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the planchet wasn't perfectly aligned with the dies during striking, leaving part of the design missing and a blank crescent of metal on one side. The more off-center it is, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible, the higher the value. Coins that are 50% or more off-center can easily fetch thousands, and in near-perfect uncirculated condition with a strong D mint mark, that value multiplies. But perhaps the most talked about 1994 error involves die cracks and die breaks, often called cuds, by collectors. These occur when the die used to strike coins develops cracks from overuse, allowing metal to flow into the damaged areas during striking and creating raised blobs or missing sections of the design. Some of these cuds appear dramatically across Lincoln's face or along the rim, giving each coin a unique fingerprint that no two examples share. The rarer the cud pattern and the more distinct it is, the higher the desirability. Collectors pay top dollar for coins that combine major die breaks with strong details elsewhere, especially when they've been preserved without wear or corrosion. And then there's the elusive missing mint mark phenomenon, which occasionally appears even on Denver-struck coins. This happens when grease or debris fills the area of the die where the D punch sits, causing it to disappear during striking. A 1994 penny missing its mint mark entirely but otherwise flawless has been recorded selling for astronomical sums because of how rarely this kind of error survives mint inspection. The Denver Mint's quality control system was excellent in the 1990s, so the escape of any major error coin was highly unusual, making survivors even more valuable. One such example surfaced in the early 2000s when a collector in Colorado discovered a shiny, nearly perfect 1994 penny with no mint mark and an unusually sharp strike. When submitted for grading, it was authenticated as a genuine mint error and later sold for over $100,000 at auction, sparking renewed interest in late 20th century Lincoln cents. Beyond these production anomalies, the 1994 penny holds emotional and historical significance for collectors as part of the beloved Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which ran from 1959 to 2008. The design by Frank Gasparo, depicting the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, symbolizes unity and democracy, with a tiny image of the statue of Lincoln visible between the memorial's columns. On pristine 1994D examples, that tiny statue detail remains crisp, reflecting the craftsmanship of the mint engravers even amid the shift to more economical materials. Yet for all this attention to detail, it was the smallest imperfections, the ones no one intended, that gave rise to this coin's fame. What makes this story even more compelling is that many of these valuable 1994D-era pennies are still out there, waiting to be found. Unlike older rarities locked away in museums or private collections, modern errors often slip through circulation, hiding in coin jars, piggy banks, and forgotten drawers. The possibility that one could still be an everyday change is what fuels the obsession among collectors and treasure hunters alike. Imagine the thrill of finding one, a single cent that could pay for a home, a car, or a college education. The allure of that possibility is what keeps the numismatic community alive and buzzing. But identifying these treasures takes a trained eye. When examining your 1994D pennies, look closely under magnification for doubling, cracks, missing sections, or faint mint marks. Weigh the coin if possible. If it's lighter or heavier than the standard 2.5 grams, it might be a wrong planchet strike. Observe the edges for incomplete plating or layering errors, as some 1994D pennies exhibit bubbling or peeling due to faulty bonding between the copper plating and zinc core. While most such errors are minor, rare severe cases, where plating is missing from one side entirely, are valuable, especially in mint state condition. For collectors, documentation is everything, so having your find authenticated by a reputable grading service can make all the difference. Certified coins are trusted at auctions, where bidders know they're getting genuine errors, not post-mint damage. Over the years, auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have recorded several high-profile sales of 1994D errors, with prices climbing higher as public interest in modern coins grows. Part of this surge comes from social media and online content creators who bring these discoveries to a wider audience, inspiring new collectors every day. The excitement of realizing that something from your pocket could be worth thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of dollars is magnetic, and it's that exact excitement that drives the coin's quest forward. Beyond its market value, the 1994D penny represents a fascinating convergence of art, engineering, and chance. Each step of the minting process, design, die creation, blank preparation, striking, and inspection, must work in harmony to produce billions of identical coins, yet the tiniest deviation in timing, pressure, or alignment can create something unique. It's a poetic paradox. Perfection gives birth to uniformity, but imperfection gives birth to rarity. That's the essence of why collectors treasure coins like the 1994D 1 cent worth $103,000. It's a tangible reminder that even in a world built on precision, the most valuable outcomes sometimes come from mistakes. In the grand story of U.S. coinage, this penny is a testament to both technological progress and human fallibility, an artifact of the mint's never-ending quest for flawless production. Decades from now, as collectors continue to search for the rarest Lincoln cents, the 1994D will remain a star of the late 20th century, a symbol of how small details can change everything. So the next time you empty your pockets, pause before tossing your pennies aside. Look closer. Hold them under light. Because somewhere among the ordinary 1994D cents lies a masterpiece of minting anomaly waiting to be discovered, a coin that carries the whisper of history and the promise of fortune, a reminder that the coin's quest is never over. It's right there in your hands, just one glance away from uncovering a $103,000 treasure hiding behind the humble face of Abraham Lincoln.